Hello, everybody, and welcome to a great episode of the Gridiron Glory podcast. Tad and Will here to bring you coverage of all 32 teams throughout the NFL all season long. This is our perspective of it, and we're here to bring it to you and get in-depth analysis and coverage of these squads. So let's get into it. The first game is the New York Jets at the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday Night Football. And this was the battle of Aaron Rodgers versus Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's Pittsburgh Steelers debut. And in his Pittsburgh Steelers debut, he goes 16 of 29, 264, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. His offensive line did a tremendous job, only allowing 1 sack. I mean, this Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line is probably one of the better ones in football. I would definitely rank them a top 10 offensive line for sure. In my opinion. So I mentioned it before in our preseason research, Tad, when we were talking about this Pittsburgh Steelers team that, hey, Russell Wilson could come out here and perhaps thrive and flourish in a Mike Tomlin system. And, I mean, he went out there and, he looked very confident. He looked very poised, definitely had all kinds of time to make big plays and make big throws. I mean, I got the chills watching Russell Wilson on Sunday night. It definitely gave that looked like the that did not look like the Denver Russell Wilson. That almost looked like prime Seattle Russell Wilson, but in a much older body. I mean, it's just crazy what coaching in a good system can do when you get along with your coach. It seems to me that Russell Wilson and Mike Tomlin have some really good chemistry here. And I mean, yeah, and they just went out there and, I mean, they were clicking on all levels. There was even that play where Russell Wilson throws it down the sideline and it gets bobbled off of the defender. And then George Pickens makes the catch and makes the big play. And Tad, I'd really like to ask you really quick, where would you rank George Pickens amongst NFL wide receivers?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because George Pickens, I mean, he's a guy that's just been waiting all season, basically his entire career, to have a competent quarterback. And when you see Russell Wilson, what Russell Wilson can unlock in a guy like George Pickens, you really see that he's got a lot of talent. He can make some outstanding catches. He can do some great things. I think he's one of the more underrated receivers in the league, and I think that we're going to see that behind Russell Wilson. And I like what you were saying about the connection between Wilson and Tomlin, how they connect well. And you got to think this is a great opportunity for Mike Tomlin to have a quarterback in Russell Wilson, who I would argue is the best quarterback he's had since Ben Roethlisberger, in my opinion. So I really want to see what this Pittsburgh team can do with a quarterback that can throw downfield some, that can make plays, that can connect well with his receivers, and that can just be a playmaker. I think this is going to be a great opportunity to unlock Pittsburgh, a team that, as you say, they have an outstanding offensive line. They have a very competent running game with Harris and Warren. Their defense is incredible. TJ Watt does great things. Minkah Fitzpatrick, Cameron Hayward, all sorts of guys on the defense making plays, Joey Porter. So I'm really interested to see just how far Pittsburgh can go behind Russell Wilson.
And yeah, you definitely like also, him getting his shot, him getting his chance, him getting his opportunity, given the fact that he won the job in the preseason. And then, of course, he was dealing with the injuries and everything. So Russell Wilson proves that he's still an elite quarterback, a veteran, if nothing else. And, he found a way to get the job done on Sunday night. Now let's talk about the Jets. Saleh gets fired. I mean, it's just, the New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers, 24-39, 276, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. The offensive line only did allow that 1 sack, but even then, there were still a lot of moments where you felt like Rodgers got severely pressured because of the strong Pittsburgh defensive line. I mean, yeah, it was very tough for that offensive line at times, but kudos to them for only allowing one sack. I mean, even in the blowout loss, I mean, that's massive strides for that Jets offensive line. But nonetheless, it's just they couldn't really get anything going, and you know the ripple effects of not having your coach that was once there. And just everything seems to be spiraling now out of control very fast for the Jets.
Yeah, their defense, which was once regarded as one of the better defenses in the league, they had a really disappointing effort. Here against Pittsburgh, only the one sack, letting Pickens go wild on their secondary. You'd expect a much bigger day out of guys like Will McDonald, obviously Sauce Gardner, who didn't do as much as you would hope. I mean, you'd expect him to have a bigger day, but it was tough for the Jets defense to really get anything going. Their pass rush didn't have a big day. Their secondary was getting beat. The linebackers just an all around disappointing effort out of the Jets defense, and not something you would have expected to see.
Definitely not. I mean, I actually kind of expected to see this. I mean, knowing Russell Wilson was getting the start, knowing how good Pittsburgh's defense is, knowing the situation. I mean, honestly, this pretty much was to be expected. I mean, the Jets just kind of ran into a buzzsaw
here. Yeah, like I said, I would have expected a better effort out of the Jets defense. I mean, I thought Pittsburgh would have a good chance to win the game myself. I picked them, but with that being said, I mean, the Jets, they're just having a very disappointing season. I'd say they're having one of the more disappointing seasons in the league with their 2-5 record with Rodgers back. So
well, I mean, we talked about it last season too. Like last season when you and I were on blocktalk.com doing our podcast there, doing our show. I mean, we talked about it even then, just about how the Jets were massively struggling, and we were really hoping in our preseason research that hey, this was going to be a team that was going to make a bounce back effort. But now here we are in week 7 of this season, and it's just like, well, now what?
Yeah,
it's
and I mean, you have Devontae Adams now, so you've added him. He didn't have a big impact, only 3 catches for 30 yards, but you'd have to think that as the season goes on, he's going to get more integrated. So maybe that can help spark them. But just so far, not a lot of good results here for the Jets.
It is also worth noting, I forgot to mention with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Najee Harris, 102 yards there with a touchdown. And Ted, where would you rank Najee Harris amongst NFL running backs?
I'd say he's above average, probably in like the 10 to 15 range, maybe.
There you have it, folks. Pittsburgh Steelers 37, New York Jets 15. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow. This is the Gridiron Glory Podcast.